What is that?
Hey, you don't have to come up here. They're going to discharge me. The doctor thinks that it's just simple constipation. So he said he's going to give me some prescribe some stew softener for me. All right? Okay, so you don't have to come up here.
Army fatigue pants that I was telling them about. The white pieces on top is something we threw in there the day we was cleaning up. I think that's what caught my attention to the blood. Okay? It's blood. It's blood. This is the apartment after Uncle Cotton came. Beer cans. Now, remember Uncle Zell had his coat and a black hoodie. His coat and his black hoodie. This is what I was trying to tell everyone. This is the shirt I was talking about. This slipper. Somebody moved it over here. Before, the slipper was right here, pointing this way. Matter of fact, look, here's a footprint right here. I'm going to try to put the picture there. Okay, his foot boot is under here. Okay, there's a thing here. This, I believe, could have been from those people who came in. This is... This is what I'm talking about. Okay? 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 Mm-hmm. This is the couch cushion seat. Now, I'm not going to touch anything, but right underneath. Yeah. Right up in there is no light, but that's blood. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay? Okay, see the perfect pillow, right? Something for jazzy. Okay, nice and arms. Okay. Okay. Okay, everything I said. Okay, everything is going from his table. Okay, his TV. Oh, his antenna's gone. So, brother took his antenna. The plug unplugged. Why would it be a need to be unplugged? The person's here living here. That's what I'm saying.
Well, now we grieve, and we reach out to the public and to each of you to share and to wake it up, okay? That we need to become more aware, less desensationalized by the realities, because what we are realizing, if we really pay attention, is that consistently our medical concerns, any of our concerns educationally, legally, they are always downplayed by the very people that have been put in a position, applied for the position to be able to be competent and reasonable, fair, and impartial for resolve. But what we are learning and finding out, that's just not a reality. It's just not a reality. And perhaps we need to consider what else can be done about this. Moving forward, there's too many people involved in having an interest in the lives and the deaths of individuals, and that makes it very dangerous. Some of us have 500 years worth of expertise, experience, and real-time memories of savagery, of tyrants, of terrorism, and their symptomology, the behavioral pattern. See, some things you don't need a book for. You don't need anyone to teach you. It's right there in our faces. And so this video right here, I hope that you understand truly what this is. See, when you set out on a route to be free, and when you set up yourself to educate yourself or to stand and fight, stand your ground for your rights, your human dignity, to be held in regard, there is a system of Ku Klux Klanery that is still very brazen, blatant, and apparent. It is not just in the White House. It is in every house. And so many of us are funding these houses because there is not enough colored people with home ownership in the urban communities and cities that we are filling up. And so here we are at risk by our landlords who share the key, which is sharing access to anyone who have a contractual asset interest in the property, in the individual. And so it's that individual's rights not being taken, stripped from them without their knowledge. I mean, totally unsuspecting we are when these criminal assailants with badges, hired asset manager. What is an asset manager needed, necessary for in a housing project, in a housing development? You're not advocating for my uncle. You're not providing any services for you. You stood in the way. You didn't provide me any footage. You didn't adhere to any request, but you adhere to the request of providing a key to law enforcement that still had to break in past a chain, people. And so here you have an individual in their home, startled, already sick, already in a depleted state, already sent home by the medical, already neglected by his doctors, whose name is not even on the death certificate, but that same medical office, Albany Dialysis, made the call. That physician's name, treating physician, getting dialysis, okay, end-stage renal failure care treatments, you get dialysis 3-4 times a week. For hours they are draining your blood, and sometimes your heart is stopping. As my uncle had experienced, the misfeasance that my uncle had experienced under the care, the inadequate care of Albany Medical Center and Albany Memorial Hospital, and the physicians that were entrusted with his human care. Didn't have a human interest, don't have a human bone in their body. I don't have to speak nice to a tyrant. That is delusional thought process. And see, if you don't want to deal with an individual's feelings or the truth, you perhaps should not bring your delusional behavior or your very realistic brutality in their lives. Because what has happened to my family is a travesty. But what has happened to a human being who has disappeared since January 9th, no family member has seen this individual that is accounted for, that just left his family to go to CVS to get medication that's always never accessible, never there. And so he goes home in 2 ways. So that's all cleared up. And he's left in an apartment, probably sleeping off his sickness because he could sleep for 3 or 4 days. Sleeping off because dialysis ain't even follow up with an appointment after January 3rd, 2019, neglecting his care. And previous to that had made him reschedule a couple of appointments. And so he's at home sick. Go to the hospital and come home. They don't follow up. Don't provide no dialysis. So there's no reason for a bloodbath in his apartment. Let's start with the white delusions. I think all of us has suffered enough with that white foggy cloud over our brains. This must stop. They done went and built themselves an organ and donor center in Albany. For what? For what? Who is supposed to fill that center? How are you supposed to guarantee money for that corporation? How are you supposed to capitalize off of a business like that? Ain't that many people dying? But sickly, elderly, and can we really utilize those organs? Come on now, let's think about that. No, we need youthful organs. We need colored organs. My uncle's mutilated. He was in the care of law enforcement for 3 hours, and the call time of death was 11:04 a.m. That is because you were present when he took his last breath. That is why there was a resuscitation cup in there. That is why there was white stickies, because those are things they place on your chest when they decide to resuscitate you, perhaps make a call and see there was a DNR arm intact and decided, oh, we don't have to save him. This is too brutal of a scene anyway. Let's complete this, finish this up. Unplugging his devices coming in is a motivation. He pulled the curtain down to leave that sign for me, because that's the one thing you could not know. I would know when he was attacked by law enforcement. I would know when you came. We had these conversations since I filed my lawsuit on November 14, 2014, because he served all of the defendants that never answered, failed to answer a lawsuit for $388 million that the county of Albany negated. See, there's one thing we need to learn, and that is each other. And so when I am talking about investing my time and energy into my loved ones, I absolutely mean it. This man complained about nothing. An amazing human being with flaws like everyone else. But he didn't bother nobody. And he was in a vulnerable state. And when he sought medical care, he couldn't get it because Donald Duck, Derelict, Orange, Monkey Dog implemented policies of non-readmittance, which leaves room for discretion and for racist, discriminatory medical staff who has no problem with violating their oaths, which I've taken too. To give false or misdiagnosis and send people home with constipation when they're having a fucking heart attack. But you have his whole record electronically, you shared it. So you knew very well he was already suffering from a hematoma and from previous medical injuries he sustained by getting medical treatment to get him better made him worse. And created a blockage in my uncle's heart and then allowed any sort of a non-doctor to work on him, provide him such an inhumane treatment. Could you expect anything more from his loved one and to live the rest of their life without him? This was a homicide. The police broke in and burglarized, because see, when you steal things and remove things and you never give them back to the family, you are no different than a thief creeping in the night. You are not invited, especially when I possess the key. Especially when he just told me 5 days prior I didn't need to use my key because he would call me. Especially when you removed a phone out of his apartment. especially when you weren't aware that there was other devices in the apartment so I can monitor my loved one. Now, people, if you want to learn something, you better learn with me. I am watching Big Brothers all day, every day. If he thinks for 1 minute that a tyrant, that a terrorist is entitled to stalk me, absolutely not. America, I say this vote is so much more than that. This is a strategic, systematic attack of genocide. And there are too many players that cannot be trusted. And I say in that whole situation, the funeral home was at fault, the hospitals, the crematory, the registrar, the detectives, the officers, the DA's office that I called in. Mr. Ross never returned the call. It's only because they knew what took place in my uncle's apartment and Townsend's apartment at 45 Central Avenue in Albany, New York, 15F. That apartment needs to be shut down and quarantined. That apartment needs the Federal Bureau of Investigations in there because a hate crime of terror against Native Americans had occurred in that apartment. And by your gods, you will be haunted for the rest of your lives until justice for Zell, justice in our way is sought and it is heard. You don't sit there every day when these sorts of attacks are taking place inside of people's homes and the police officers are showing up outside a family member's home, covering up their security cameras. People, let's join. We must educate ourselves, and sometimes you know something I don't, and I know something you don't. And they say something. They don't mean it. They just want a snitch to do their job for them. But they're giving the snitch up too and putting their families' lives in danger. What do you owe a system? What do you owe a system that keeps you in depravity? That in your most vulnerable moment, after retirement and paying taxes and not even collecting $1 of a native benefit, that your local, state, and federal government shows you a total disregard. Well, I am here as I begin to clean up the disgusting, inhumane savagery of that mess you left behind. I'm here to create my own for you to clean up. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. And what we are dealing with is a system of knickers, whining crybabies, victimizers, people who are serpent dwellers, easing in any way they can with their ineptness. That is my loved one there. That is my loved one. That is my loved one. I want to know what Letitia James is doing in New York State. I want to know because I have called every agency in this state, in this upstate, in the capital of New York, is incompetent. And they, with all the funding running through, in and out, there are laws for that. Because if you are violating laws under the color of law, that federal and state funding needs to be taken and strict. Now, and I say we start to hold them accountable to the laws that are in the books as if they think that they are entitled to hold us. To any system that is not working for us yet. We are paying, compensating it, so that means it should be working for us. And if in fact it is not, if in fact it does not know how to pay its dues, you got to learn how to behave as it to collect on yours.